I stared at the text message on my phone, reading it for the third time, as if the words might rearrange themselves into something less painful. Mom, about Saturday. Maybe wear something simple? You know how these events are. Vanessa's guests can be particular. That wasn't even the worst part. I scrolled up to the message from 2 hours earlier. Actually, thinking about it, do you have anything other than those floral dresses? Madison's friends' parents are all very contemporary. I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. My daughter, my own daughter, asking me to change who I was for a 16-year-old's birthday party. I set the phone down on my kitchen table, next to the scrapbook I'd been working on for 3 months. Every page was a labor of love. Photographs I'd collected since Madison was born, ticket stubs from our museum trips, pressed flowers from the garden we used to tend together, before Vanessa decided Madison was too old for such things. The cover was deep purple, Madison's favorite color, decorated with silver stars I'd carefully applied by hand. My late husband, James, would have known what to say. He always did. But James had been gone for 4 years now, and I'd learned that sometimes silence was the only response certain cruelties deserved. I picked up my phone again. "I'll be there," I typed back. Nothing more. The week leading up to the party crawled by in a strange, suspended way. Vanessa called twice, both times to discuss logistics, not with me, exactly, but at me. The guest list had grown to over 100 people. She'd hired a professional photographer, a DJ, even a dessert artist who specialized in Instagram-worthy displays. Madison had been thrilled at first, Vanessa assured me, though I noticed she didn't put Madison on the phone. I tried calling my granddaughter directly on Thursday. It rang 6 times before going to voicemail. "Hi, sweetie," I said after the beep. "Just wanted to hear your voice before the big day. I have something special for you. Love you always." She didn't call back. Saturday arrived with the kind of perfect June weather that makes everything look deceptively beautiful. I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes, looking at my dresses. The floral ones Vanessa had dismissed hung alongside newer purchases, modest, colorful, comfortable. In the end, I chose a lavender dress with small white flowers at the hem. It was me. If that wasn't enough, then perhaps nothing would be. The Riverside Manor was across town, a sprawling country club I'd driven past 1,000 times but never entered. The circular driveway was already filling with expensive cars. When I arrived at 6:30, young valets in crisp uniforms jogged between vehicles, and I felt, suddenly, acutely aware of my 15-year-old sedan with its faded paint and grocery store air freshener. "Good evening, ma'am," a valet said, opening my door with the kind of professional courtesy that made everyone feel equally welcome and equally anonymous. I clutched the scrapbook against my chest and followed the signs directing guests to the Magnolia Ballroom. The hallway was lined with photographs of the club's history polo matches, golf tournaments, charity galas, beautiful people in beautiful clothes, frozen in beautiful moments. The ballroom doors were open, and music drifted out, something current and upbeat that I didn't recognize. I paused at the entrance, taking it all in. Vanessa had outdone herself. The room was transformed into what I can only describe as a teenage dream brought to life. White and silver balloons formed elaborate archways. String lights crisscrossed the ceiling like stars. Round tables dressed in pearl gray linens surrounded a dance floor that was already drawing a crowd of Madison's friends, all of them in dresses that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. I spotted Vanessa immediately. She stood near the entrance with Madison, greeting guests. My daughter wore a sleek black cocktail dress and heels that added 3 inches to her height. She looked stunning and sharp and so far removed from the little girl who used to help me bake cookies every Sunday. Madison stood beside her in a rose gold dress that caught the light beautifully. She'd grown so much in just the past year, taller, poised, hovering on that edge between childhood and whatever comes next. I started toward them, a smile forming on my lips. Vanessa saw me first. Something flickered across her face, not quite displeasure, but close. She touched Madison's arm and whispered something I couldn't hear. "Hi, sweetheart," I said when I reached them, holding out my arms for Madison. My granddaughter hugged me, but it was brief, distracted. "Hi, Grandma. Thanks for coming." "I wouldn't miss it for anything," I said, pulling back to look at her. "You look absolutely beautiful. Thank you." She glanced at her phone, already half turned away. "Sorry, I need to check on something with Madison. The photographer wants to do family photos," Vanessa interrupted. "Go find your father, will you?" Madison nodded and disappeared into the crowd. I stood there with Vanessa, holding my scrapbook, suddenly uncertain. "Mom," Vanessa said, and there was something in her tone I couldn't quite place. "You came." "Of course I came. It's my granddaughter's birthday." She glanced at my dress, and I saw it, that quick assessment, that flicker of judgment. "Well, let me show you to your table. We have assigned seating. I'd love to give Madison her present first." "Later," Vanessa said quickly. "There's a gift table. You can leave it there." She was already walking, and I had no choice but to follow. We wove through the crowd, past tables where I recognized no one. Vanessa's world, I realized. Her friends, her colleagues, her carefully curated social circle. She stopped at a table near the back, partially hidden behind one of the balloon archways. "Here you are, table 12. I looked at the number placard, then at the other tables. "This is..." "What?" "Far," that's what it was. Far from the head table where I could see place cards with Madison's name, Vanessa's name, her husband Richard's name. Far from the dance floor, far from everything. "Never mind," I said quietly. Vanessa's expression softened for just a moment. "Mom, it's not personal. We have a lot of Richard's business associates here, and the seating chart is complicated. You understand." I nodded, though I wasn't sure I did. "Enjoy yourself," she said, already turning away. "There's an open bar." I watched her go, then looked down at the scrapbook in my hands. The gift table was near the entrance, overflowing with professionally wrapped presents in coordinated colors. I walked over slowly and placed my handmade album among them. It looked exactly like what it was, homemade, simple, out of place. Table 12 was occupied by 2 other people when I returned. An elderly couple I didn't recognize. They introduced themselves as Richard's great-aunt and uncle, visiting from Florida. We made pleasant small talk about the weather and the drive, and they were kind enough. But I could see them taking in the ballroom, the other guests, comparing and calculating the same way everyone seemed to be doing. The party officially began with Vanessa taking the microphone. She looked radiant and confident as she welcomed everyone, thanked them for coming, made a few jokes that earned polite laughter. She talked about Madison, her achievements, her bright future, her wonderful friends. She didn't mention me. I told myself it didn't matter. This wasn't about me. It was Madison's night. Dinner was served a catered affair with multiple courses that I barely tasted. Between the salad and the entree, Vanessa worked the room like a politician, stopping at each table to greet guests. I watched her make her way around the ballroom, laughing with this group, hugging that person, taking selfies with Madison's friends. She never made it to table 12. I saw Madison a few times throughout dinner, always surrounded by friends, always laughing, always moving. Once, our eyes met across the room. She smiled and waved, and I waved back, trying to memorize that smile, that moment of connection. After dinner, the dancing started. The DJ played song after song that I didn't know, and the dance floor filled with teenagers moving in ways that seemed both foreign and familiar. Every generation thinks they invented dancing. I watched Madison in the center of it all, glowing with happiness, and that was enough. That had to be enough. "Would you like to dance?" I turned to find Richard's uncle standing beside my chair, offering his hand with a gentle smile. "Oh, I don't think. My wife's feet are tired," he said conspiratorially, "and I happen to think this old song is worth a slow dance, even if these young people don't know what they're missing." The DJ had indeed switched to something slower, something I recognized, an old Frank Sinatra standard. I let him lead me to the edge of the dance floor, where we swayed gently, Two elderly people finding a small moment of grace in an evening that had felt increasingly graceless. Your granddaughter? He asked. Yes, 16 today. Beautiful age, beautiful girl. He paused. Though I must say, she doesn't know how lucky she is. I looked at him questioningly. To have a grandmother who shows up, he said simply. My grandmother raised me, taught me everything that mattered. I lost her 20 years ago, and there isn't a week that goes by I don't think about her. My throat tightened. Thank you, I whispered. The song ended, and we made our way back to the table. I excused myself to use the restroom, needing a moment alone to compose myself. The ladies' room was as elegant as the rest of the venue: marble countertops, fancy soap dispensers, a sitting area with plush chairs. I stood at the sink, dabbing cool water on my wrists, when two women walked in, their conversation already in progress. Absolutely gorgeous event. Vanessa really outdid herself. Did you see the dessert display? I need her caterer's number, and Madison is such a poised young lady. Nothing like— The woman stopped abruptly as they noticed me. I smiled politely and moved toward the door. Wait, aren't you? One of them started. Just leaving, I said quickly. But I'd heard enough. Nothing like what? Nothing like me? I walked back into the hallway and found myself standing near the gift table instead of returning to my seat. The scrapbook was still there, buried under newer arrivals. I reached out to touch it, running my fingers over the purple cover. That's a beautiful color. I turned to find Madison standing beside me, holding a glass of what looked like sparkling cider. Sweetheart, are you having a wonderful time? Yeah, it's been amazing. She looked tired, though, beneath the excitement. Mom really went all out. She loves you very much. Madison nodded, looking at the gift table. There are so many presents. I don't even know what half of them are. Well, you'll have fun finding out. I gestured to the scrapbook. That purple one is from me. Her eyes widened. You made that? Every page. Photographs, memories, pieces of us. She reached for it, carefully pulling it from the pile. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the cover, and I watched her face as she turned each page. I'd organized it chronologically: her first days home from the hospital, toddler tea parties in my backyard, elementary school art projects we'd done together, middle school science fairs where I'd been her #1 cheerleader. Grandma, she whispered, her eyes shining with tears. This is too much? I asked, suddenly worried I'd overstepped. Perfect. A tear slipped down her cheek. It's perfect. These are all the things She stopped, looking up at me. Why are you sitting at table 12? The question caught me off guard. Your mother's seating chart. Table 12 is where Great Aunt Carol is. That's in the back. By the kitchen. It's fine, sweetie. You have so many guests. Did Mom put you back there? Madison's voice rose slightly. Why would she? Madison, it's your party. Don't worry about. Where's Grandma sitting? A voice called out. I turned to see one of Madison's friends approaching, a tall girl with long braids. Table 12, Madison said flatly. The friend's eyes widened. Wait, seriously? But that's where they put. She stopped, clearly realizing she was about to say something she shouldn't. Another friend joined us. Maddie, we need you for photos with— Oh, hi, Mrs. Eleanor, I supplied. Just call me Eleanor. This is my grandma, Madison said, and there was something fierce in her voice. She made me this. She held up the scrapbook. The friends cooed appropriately, flipping through pages, asking questions. More girls gathered, drawn by the small commotion. Madison stood in the center of them, clutching the album. And I saw something changing in her expression, a realization forming, a decision being made. Excuse me, she said suddenly, pushing the scrapbook into my hands. I need to talk to my mother. She walked away before I could stop her, moving through the crowd with purpose. I watched her approach Vanessa, who was in the middle of a conversation with several well-dressed couples. Madison tapped her shoulder, insistent. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Vanessa's face change surprise, then confusion, then something harder. She excused herself from her group and pulled Madison aside, near the DJ booth. Their conversation was animated, Madison gesturing emphatically, Vanessa shaking her head. Then Madison did something I didn't expect. She took the microphone from the DJ. The music cut off abruptly. Conversations faded. Every head in the room turned toward the birthday girl standing on the small stage, microphone in hand, tears streaming down her face. "Hi, everyone," Madison said, her voice shaking but loud. "Thank you all so much for coming to celebrate with me. This has been an incredible night." Vanessa stood frozen near the stage, her face pale. "But I need to say something," Madison continued, "about someone very important to me. Someone who should be sitting at the head table, not hidden in the back of the room." My heart stopped. My grandma is here tonight. She's been at every single important moment of my life. Every birthday, every school play, every award ceremony. When I was 8 and broke my arm, she stayed with me in the hospital while my parents worked. When I was 11 and everyone at school was mean to me, she taught me how to stand up for myself with kindness. When I was 14 and didn't make the volleyball team, she took me out for ice cream and told me that rejection doesn't define who we are. The room was utterly silent. She spent 3 months making me a scrapbook for my birthday. 3 months. Every photograph, every memory, every single page, she made it by hand. And my mother put her at table 12. Like she doesn't matter. Like she's an embarrassment. Vanessa tried to interrupt, but Madison wasn't finished. "I don't care about this fancy party. I don't care about the dessert table or the photographer or any of it. I care about the people who actually love me, who show up not because it looks good, but because they want to be there." She looked directly at me then, across the entire ballroom, past all the guests and the decorations and the carefully constructed facade. "Grandma? Will you please come up here?" I stood frozen, every eye in the room now on me. "Please," Madison said again, and her voice broke. I don't remember walking to the stage. I only remember Madison meeting me halfway, wrapping her arms around me, the scrapbook pressed between us. "I'm so sorry," she whispered against my shoulder. "I didn't know. I didn't realize she was. I'm so sorry." "Shh, sweetheart. It's okay. It's not okay," she pulled back, wiping her eyes. "None of this is okay." The DJ, sensing perhaps that something needed to break the tension, started playing music again, something soft and instrumental. People began talking in hushed voices. Madison kept her arm around my waist, anchoring me there beside her. Vanessa appeared at the edge of the stage, her perfect facade cracked. "Madison, can we please discuss this privately?" "No, Mom, we can't." Madison's voice was steady now. "Because you would just explain it away. Tell me I'm too young to understand. That it's complicated. You are too young, too. I'm 16. That's old enough to know when someone I love is being treated like they don't matter." I put my hand on Madison's arm. "Sweetheart, maybe we should." "See?" Madison looked at her mother. "Even now, she's trying to smooth things over. To make it easier for you. Because that's what she does. That's what she's always done." Vanessa's eyes met mine then, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years. My daughter really saw her. Not the successful real estate agent, not the perfect hostess, not the carefully constructed image. Just Vanessa, my little girl, looking lost and defensive and ashamed all at once. I thought. Vanessa started, then stopped. I wanted everything to be perfect. "For who?" Madison asked quietly. "For me? Or for everyone else?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Around us, the party was attempting to resume. The DJ played another song. People returned to conversations, but the three of us stood there in our small, broken triangle, years of unspoken hurt suddenly given voice. "I'm going to change," Madison said finally. "This dress is beautiful, but it's not really me." She looked at me. "Will you help me?" Of course. We walked together toward the exit, leaving Vanessa standing alone on the edge of the dance floor. In the hallway, Madison started laughing through her tears. That was insane. Did I really just do that? You did. I squeezed her hand. You were very brave. I was so mad. When I saw that scrapbook, and then realized where you were sitting, I just couldn't pretend anymore. We found a quiet corner, and Madison pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos. Look, she said, showing me a picture. It was the two of us from 3 years ago, covered in flour after a particularly disastrous attempt at making croissants. This is my favorite photo of us. This is who we are. Flour-covered disasters? She laughed. Real. We're real, Grandma. Not like all that. She gestured back toward the ballroom. Your mother loves you, I said gently. She wanted to give you something special, I know. But the special thing was already here. She just couldn't see it. We stood there for a moment, just breathing together. Do you really want to change? I asked. Yeah. I have a dress in the car, the purple one we picked out together last month. Remember? The one Mom said was too casual? I remember. That's the one I want to wear. For the rest of my birthday. We went out to the parking lot. Madison still in her rose gold dress. Me in my floral lavender. The valet looked confused but retrieved Madison's car, a small sedan, practical and slightly beat up, that she'd bought with money from her summer job. She changed in the restroom, emerging in a simple purple sundress that matched the scrapbook, her hair loose instead of the elaborate updo from earlier. She looked younger, happier, more herself. When we returned to the ballroom, something had shifted. Vanessa was no longer working the room. She sat at the head table alone, staring at her plate. When she saw us walk in Madison in her casual dress, me beside her, her expression crumbled. We walked over together. I'm sorry, Vanessa said before either of us could speak. Mom, I'm so sorry. You're right, Madison. All of you are right. I got so caught up in making everything look perfect that I forgot what actually matters. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. You've never been an embarrassment. Ever. You've been nothing but loving and supportive. And I repaid that by putting you in the back of the room like you were. Like you were some obligation I had to fulfill. I'm ashamed of myself. I sat down beside her, feeling the weight of all the years between us, the slow accumulation of small hurts, unspoken resentments, misunderstandings that had calcified into something harder. I just wanted to feel proud, Vanessa whispered, to show everyone that I'd made something of myself, that I could give Madison things I never had. I was always proud of you, I said softly. From the moment you were born. I know you were. That somehow made it worse, like I had to keep achieving, keep proving, keep building this perfect life to justify that pride. Madison sat down on her mother's other side. Mom, Grandma's proud of you because you're her daughter, not because of your job or your house or parties like this. Vanessa nodded, wiping her eyes with a cocktail napkin. I've been so stupid. Not stupid, I said. Just lost, maybe. We all get lost sometimes. Richard appeared then, putting his hands on Vanessa's shoulders. Everything okay here? No, Vanessa said, but maybe it will be. The party continued around us, but the three of us, 3 generations of women, sat together at that head table, talking quietly, really talking, for the first time in longer than I could remember. Madison showed her mother every page of the scrapbook, and Vanessa cried through most of it. I remember all of these, she said, touching a photo of toddler Madison and me making mud pies. I was so busy working, and you were just always there. I think I resented it, in a way, that you had more time with her than I did. I never wanted to take your place, I said. I know. That's what makes it worse. You never asked for anything. You just loved us. The evening wound down eventually. Guests began leaving, offering congratulations and thanks. The DJ packed up his equipment. The elaborate desserts were mostly eaten. The balloons were starting to deflate, and the perfect party was becoming just another memory. Madison insisted I come home with her and Vanessa, but I declined gently. It's been a long evening. I think I need my own bed. But Grandma, come have breakfast with me tomorrow, I suggested. Both of you. I'll make pancakes. Vanessa nodded. We'll be there. 10 o'clock? Perfect. Madison hugged me tightly at my car. Thank you for coming. Thank you for the scrapbook. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up, I whispered back. Not everyone can do that. I drove home through the dark streets, past the quiet houses, back to my small home that had seemed so empty earlier. But it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like exactly what it was, a place where love had been planted and tended, where memories grew like flowers, where imperfection was not just accepted, but celebrated. The next morning, I made pancakes from scratch, James's old recipe, the one with a secret ingredient he'd never share with anyone but me. It was cinnamon, just a dash, enough to make people say these are special without knowing why. Vanessa and Madison arrived exactly at 10, both of them looking tired but lighter somehow. We ate breakfast in my small kitchen, syrup dripping on the tablecloth, talking about everything and nothing. I've been thinking, Vanessa said during a lull in conversation. About a lot of things. About what's important. Oh? I refilled her coffee. I don't want Madison to remember me as the mother who cared more about appearances than people. I don't want to be that person anymore. Then don't be, Madison said simply. It's not that easy. Actually, I interrupted gently, it is. Not simple, but easy. You just start making different choices, one day at a time. Vanessa looked at me with something like wonder. How did you do it? Raise me, work, manage everything, and still always have time? I didn't always have time, I admitted. I missed things, made mistakes, but I tried to be present for the moments that mattered, and I tried to remember that the relationships are what last. Not the perfectly decorated house or the impressive career. Those things are fine, but they're not what anyone will remember at the end. What will they remember? Madison asked. I thought about James, gone 4 years now. What did I remember most? Not the promotions or the moves or the big life events. I remembered Saturday mornings drinking coffee together in silence, the way he'd always kiss my forehead before leaving for work, the sound of his laugh. They'll remember how you made them feel, I said finally. Whether they felt loved, whether they felt seen, whether they felt like they mattered. We sat with that for a moment, 3 women across 3 generations, learning and relearning the lessons that never quite stick the first time. Madison reached across the table and took both our hands. Can we do this more often? Just be together, like this? Yes, Vanessa and I said in unison, then laughed. It wasn't a perfect ending. We didn't solve everything over pancakes. Vanessa still struggled with her need for external validation. Madison still navigated the complicated waters of having a driven mother and a present grandmother. I still sometimes felt like a burden, like an old relic in a fast-moving world, but we were trying. That Sunday breakfast became a weekly tradition. Vanessa started calling more, not just to relay information, but to actually talk. Madison spent less time with her phone and more time asking me about my life, my past, the stories I'd never thought anyone wanted to hear. And sometimes, late at night, I'd pull out that scrapbook, the one I'd made for Madison, and flip through its pages. Each photograph was a choice I'd made, to show up, to be present, to love, even when it wasn't convenient or perfect or noticed. In the end, that's what I'd want anyone to know. Your worth isn't determined by where you're seated at the party. It's not about the fancy dress or the perfect words or being young or relevant or whatever the world says you need to be. It's about being there, being real, being brave enough to take up space, even when someone suggests you shouldn't. Madison turned 17 last month. She requested a small party, just family, she said, just the people who actually matter. I sat at the head table, wearing another floral dress, and nobody questioned whether I belonged there. Because I did belong there. I always had.